Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday, your post-holiday MSP Initiative Live. And we bring back the one, the only Mr. Kenny P from the road. He's sporting the Coolster hat today.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I don't do cigars, so this is my baby hat for Mr. George Bardissi.
There you go. There you go.
Sure. Congratulations.
So like you can't. Oh, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was about to get right into tour stuff, and I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, I did have a kid. Well, so many people.
I can't let you jump into the tour stuff without talking about baby Oliver. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people asked me why I wasn't on the tour, and I said, well, this is what, now you know why.
It's about the only thing that will keep George away from the tour.
Well, I don't think I had a choice. I think I would have been chopped into a million pieces if I tried anything else. So
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, listen, doesn't mean we didn't try.
Oh no, you listen, you always get an A for trying, A+ for trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
but
just a little too hard, but yeah.
Yeah, well, but yeah, I think she made it super duper clear that I didn't have a chance in hell on being out of the house for that. So yeah, no, it's all good.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No, it's good. I mean, listen, we made it through. Everyone's healthy. It's good. Now we're just, learning to juggle multiple children at the same time.
Been there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've heard
just a little
clear. So let's get some housekeeping out of the way, since we're at the beginning, and that's usually when we do that. So we just finished up the May Channel Strong tour. Shortly, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. Shortly, we will be announcing the July Channel Strong tour schedule, right? So this schedule is now finished, right? Give us a few days to make sure Ken catches up on his sleep if he didn't already, and we'll start listing the North. Guess what? For the first time ever, the Northeast Channel Strong tour. Thankfully, now that it's open.
It's open.
Yes, Northeast Channel Strong tour. So like Baltimore, DC, Philly, Jersey, New York, New England, that kind of stuff, right?
I like how you skipped right over Boston, but that's okay.
Boston is part of New England, sir.
Yeah, I know, but you said New England instead. I know what you're doing there.
So you will see an update on MSPinitiative.com under Channel Strong Tour, hopefully by later on this week, if we can, with the updated schedule for the last 2 weeks of July, I believe it is. So, kind of pencil that into your schedule, folks, because it's coming to you if you're in the Northeast. Are we done? I think we may have 1 or 2 days left of giveaway. So maybe today's probably the last day. So if you haven't already, before we announce names and stuff, hit MSPinitiative.com, click on giveaway, put in your information. You have up to 10 prizes that'll be randomly selected. So if you haven't already, do that, or else you have to wait till next month for the next 10 prizes. So there's that. That's all behind us and announced and out of the way. So, Ken, did you catch up on your sleep over the weekend, man? I mean, you had a long run, long 2 weeks on the road.
Yeah, there's no really catching up, I guess. But especially when you come home and, although it was raining, so I was planning on getting home and going to a cookout, but that did not happen. It rained all weekend here.
Yeah. By the way, Gavin, you said, how do we enter? Just MSPinitiative.com, go to the giveaway page, just fill out the form and you're automatically entered, but you have to enter to win. So if you don't buy that lottery card from the local convenience store, when they announce numbers, you won't have any.
Except you don't have to buy these. These are
no purchase necessary. Just enter to win. That's all. So, and thank you, by the way, for all our vendors that are involved in MSP Initiative who threw a prize into the mix. We really appreciate you, because that helps make all that stuff work. So, anyway, back to what you're saying, Ken.
What was I saying?
You're saying it rained and a cookout.
Well, should have been a cookout, but it rained. So yeah, the cookout's gone. So I did get to relax a bit, not have to run around or do anything other than, pick up my daughter and do stuff like that, as you know. which when we talk, that's typically what happens. I'm driving somewhere or doing something. So still have that for a little while longer until she gets her license. Then I have a fourth driver on the road and I'm ready to have a heart attack. But you'll get there. You'll see.
Listen, I'm just worried about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's not go that far into the future.
I get it. I get it. How about you? Are you sleeping these days?
Yeah. Well, typical, of the Bardissi DNA. Yeah. Both children sleep like a rock, which is great. Although they do need to be fed, right? So the new child needs to be fed things like every 4 hours or 3 hours, something like that. So can only get so much sleep in those increments. But then again, it's me, right? So when my battery's out, he ain't gonna. There's no functioning for whenever it is until the clock restarts. So, but as you know, right, I can sleep standing up, which is a blessing and a curse, especially if you're driving late at night.
Yeah. Well, and if the phone rings, you'll jump up and be perfectly fine. So,
Well, how much is functional? I may sound like I'm perfectly fine, but
yeah, true.
I mean,
true.
that's just a side effect of being in the IT industry for so long, right? Getting those after-hour emergency calls for all those years.
True.
Which I'm sure everybody's laughing about, but it's so true.
That's that's what the gray is from.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, we'll talk about that in a second because that seems to be just an ever-ending question that keeps on popping up on all of the keyboard muscle areas, right? On what do you do for after hours? I'm like, has this question not been asked like every week for eternity?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the tour real quick. So number one, another successful one in the books. I'm going to start knocking on stuff, right? Nobody got injured. Nobody's sick. Everybody, went home in one piece, which is good. I don't think we had any bus breakdown problems this time.
No, not this time. Thank God.
Yeah, but I think the weather was a little bit problematic a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, you got some tech mechanics now. We got some experience under our belt, right? Belt being the key word, right? Changed 5 belts, So I think I think Paul Redding and I are standing there like, break something. Go ahead.
No, that's not even funny, man. That's not even funny.
No problems whatsoever. And the attendance was the highest it's ever been. We were getting, on the regular days, getting close to 30 folks, and then the big ones close to 50. Chicago and Pittsburgh were 2 of the biggest days, and then there are a couple of other cities that really brought the heat and came out in force. And some places started without us. We're pre-gaming before we got there, like Cincinnati and Chad's group. Those guys were pre-gaming in anticipation, and then came out, and before we could turn around, they were already in a cornhole tournament. The MSP brought the fun.
I was going to say thank you to all of our host MSPs.
Yeah.
Without them, once again, would have been very difficult to pull this off because they gave us the space to actually park and set up shop and do, right? So we're gonna have to send all of those guys a special thank you, right? For number one, for the people who had to check with landlords and building people and get all sorts of approvals and all the other stuff that comes along with that. We understand how painful a process that can be, and appreciate them for even spending the time to do it. And then obviously for everyone else, a lot of these people actually took guys off the front lines and said, go outside, grab a sandwich, grab a beer. You know what I mean? So,
right, exactly. And then there was the one place where everybody came out and he's like, okay, this is great and all, but I need some people to go back in and answer some calls.
There you go. Yeah. I can only assume their call report was a little light that day.
Only for a couple of hours.
Yeah. Just for a couple hours at the end of the day. Right. So, but no, that's great. I mean, it seems to be, and again, I'm not trying to play favorites, but that Robin Robbins event down the street from where IT Nation usually is on International Drive. I think that the resort is like a mile and a half up the road from where the venue for IT Nation is in November. That was something like 600-700 people, something like that, right? There was the ASCII. There was an ASCII Houston, right?
Yep.
Participated there. There's like 100 people or so. And then it looks like Channel Pro starting to do their thing. So I don't know what what their situation looks like, but that's starting to get started. So the regional events, right, are starting to are starting to pop back in. And I know IT Nation has their event later, IT Nation Secure, not what we remember as Automation Nation, which is now called IT Nation Explore. That's pushed back to, I believe, August. We're still waiting on more details there, but IT Nation Secure, 300 people in person at Bonnet Creek, off that Disney property that everybody remembers, for who has ever been to an earlier IT Nation. So that's happening later on this month. I think CRN Exchange is on for San Antonio in August. And
Yes,
then
it is.
like that, I think like we're all, like the ignition has started, right? The larger, more national pool events really look like they're going to start in August.
Sure.
And then like begin to trickle down, right? So you got, you know, whatever IT Nation Explorer is going to be with CRN Exchange, and then you got.
I think that's closer to November. That one.
Well, there is another IT Nation in November.
Oh, right, the big one.
Still the two.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have Exchange and IT Nation Explore, formerly Automation Nation, however that's going to come down in August. And in September, you have some more Robin Robbins kind of regional stuff. Channel Strong Tour. You know, we have the last one in September, at the end of September. That goes into Kaseya's event in Vegas at the beginning of October. Then you got Adato's event, which has been moved to the end of October. And then that leads right into IT Nation in the beginning of November. And I believe right after that is the CRN event 2 weeks later, and usually in Anaheim, which is the next gen.
Yeah.
Now. So
that's still Anaheim. Yep.
So that's like literally machine gun, right? Yeah, that's gonna be.
And then put in between, sprinkle some Channel Strong in between.
Yeah, I just said Channel Strong's in July for the Northeast, and then you get at the end of July, and then at the end of September, right? So there's another 20 cities, 20 cities there between the two. So that's a lot of stuff, right? That's a lot of stuff coming in, and that doesn't even include the rest of the smaller regional event, right? The Ask Pros, that kind of stuff. So the Robin Robbins is, and I believe even the ConnectWise, maybe user groups maybe come back. Who knows? So I mean, that's 14 cities a quarter. So I mean, the question becomes, how much, like, people are definitely hit these earlier ones now, right? Now that, like, you know, the rules have changed, like you're allowed out, right? It's a simple, if you have it, you're no mask. If you don't, not, assuming you're in a city that's still following the CDC thing, or sometimes you're, you know, in a region where, you know, just no mask, no nothing. We're not checking. It's on you. I even heard that the cruise industry might be finally starting to get approvals, right? Alaska just got approved, stuff like that. So so why do I say all of this, right? Other than mark your calendars if you're planning to go somewhere. And by the way, book your tickets now, because some of these plane tickets and hotels are starting to get expensive, right? I mean, they're talking about maybe this is the largest summer travel period probably in 20 years, for obvious reasons, right? So Ken, like, with that smorgasbord is probably one of the better words of events all cluttered together. I can't assume that people are going to stay out of their office a week, a month to go to all these events. So if you were to, and I'm not even asking as Ken representing PAX 8, more just Ken Patterson, smart guy who's been around for a while. What's your gut feeling on what the like how many people, like if I'm an average MSP and there's 10 events there, how many do I actually make? 1, 2? Like, they can't go to all of them. That's not real.
No. I mean, it depends on a number of things, right? I mean, yeah, you definitely can't go running around and go to every single one. And definitely don't base it on the fact that you haven't got swag in a year. We know there are many that do that. It has to be based on what you're looking for. I mean, for me, when I was an MSP, you know, I wanted to be at the exchanges of the world, or the IT nations of the world, because I was getting the most bang for my buck with MSPs. Those were the people that I wanted to talk to. I wanted to talk to my people, which is, you know, the basis of Channel Strong, right? Pulling MSPs together and kind of bringing that happy hour to each one of these cities. And that's really what you're going to get, I believe, the most bang for your buck. Now, if you're looking for specific, I don't know, I won't say training, because the training is going to be something different, but specific event that has something that's that you need, then yeah, then you're going to have to definitely do that. And you may have to pass on something else. Definitely don't go running around doing shiny toy syndrome either, because that's going to cause a lot of stress for everybody in your company. My thing is, look at them all, dig into each one, see what they have, what they offer, because some offer more than others. Sometimes one will be better than the other based on a speaker that you want to hear. If there's a specific speaker that you want to hear, whether it be a vendor speaker or one of their private speakers that they bring in, those are the ones that, you know, back in the day, even when I wanted to go to all of them and I couldn't, you know, I saw, you know, a really good speaker, like, you know, one of these super hackers, you know, going to be at a security. Well, I want to see that. I want to see what they have to say. At the time, cybersecurity was just getting started compared to what it is now. So, you know, going to see Mitnick or somebody like that was cool, right? You wanted to go do that. You wanted to draw that knowledge. I brought books back for everybody in the office, things like that. But you want to make sure you're being specific for a need for your company.
Or if
The
you're
direct need is
participating,
the MSPs. What's that?
right, or if you're in some informal group, right, of guys that you've talked
Sure.
to at
Yep.
user groups, peer groups, or maybe you're in a formal peer group and like you've all identified that that's a place where it would make sense for the group to then go to, right, in order for you guys to get together.
Yep.
Then pick one that fits, right? Like all decide to, hey, we're all going to converge on this event, right?
And that's what I used to do, you know, that was the MSP meetups that the exchange, you know, they started incorporating into exchange. Was we used to do that because we were like, hey, we're at this event, let's make it even more useful. Let's get together. So to your point, yeah, do the same thing here. If you know it's in a maybe a little bit more centralized area to all of you, if you're all over the country, and then you guys can meet, and then you can secondarily look at what they have to offer. But at least you're going to be going to an event. You'll be in the same place. You guys can get a room. And if you guys all share a vendor, a lot of times the vendors will get you a room for free. That's something that we used to do all the time. We'd reach out to a vendor and say, hey, we're going to be here. Can you guys get us a room? They got us a room. They even put a sign outside that said, you know, MSP meetup or whatever before it was called that, and let us all meet in a room. So you can do things like that. Leverage your vendors to see, hey, if you guys are there, you got some space, could we use this? We're pulling together, you know, a bunch of MSPs to have a chat. And then decide whether you even want them to be in there or not. A lot of times we said no vendors because this was about the MSPs and you know, discussing whatever. And most of the vendors were cool with that. They were just happy to help out.
But if you're asking them to help facilitate you and your group coming to their event and working something in or around what's already on the books, I can't imagine any vendor saying no. They're trying to get people to the event.
Right. Exactly.
But if you don't ask,
it's never happened to us. And we were at, you know, we were at someone else's event when a vendor helped us. They just said, yeah, we got this room all day and we're not in it in the morning if you guys want it. And they gave us the room for the morning, you know, stuff like that. I would definitely leverage that. Getting face to face with some of your peers that you haven't been able to see in a while is always, you know, that's the reason why we started Channel Strong.
Yes, sure.
I think that's the, you know, that's the goal, is if you're going to get to some of these larger events, get the bonus of seeing some keynotes and maybe seeing some cool side presentations in boardrooms. But the big thing cool about all that is seeing other MSPs and being face to face and getting that interaction going.
I mean, not that I'm making this a referendum on what to do when you go to events, but listen, guys, there's a lot of things that are happening at events that are targeting different people for different reasons. But you and maybe your small peer group or group of people that you're just informally very friendly with or whatever, you need to set an agenda for yourself too, right? I mean, yeah, the bar, the hallway conversations, the cigars, all that's going to happen. And we get all that. But like, if you know, as a group, we absolutely need to talk to this person, this person, this person, this vendor, you know, this coordinator, this implementation person, like line up that stuff ahead of time so that you're actually walking away with tangible results, right?
Yep.
Like the rest of the stuff, right? All the fanfare and the guest speakers and the swag, like that's all fringe stuff, right? And maybe a breakout that you find very interesting, maybe worth your while. But at the end of the day, like make the event your event, right? Like schedule it and tailor it for you and your group. And I bet you'll come away with some good stuff. The guys who are just like, hey, I'm sending a guy for the first time. Like you better have a targeted list of things. Like don't go, the worst thing you can do. No, and this is just my personal opinion. Take it for what it's worth, Ken. I'm sure you'll add some, but If you send somebody to an event that's not you, right? A service coordinator, an engineer, or whatever, salesperson, and they come back and you're like, all right, what do you learn? That's the wrong time and the wrong question. Like, you should be sending these people ahead of time with the agenda. This is what I need you to do. This is what you should be doing when you're there. Here's what the checklist is. And then anything else is bonus, right? It's the best way to get your ROI from the event.
And so what we did with that too was because first of all, how many people can say their first time at an event was that easy? It wasn't. It was like drinking from a fire hose. Didn't know which way to go, didn't know who to talk to. So what we would typically do, and I would recommend this to everybody, is if I was sending someone new, I would have them immediately meet with the MSPs I know that are going to be at the event. Just jump into the conversation, have that intro, and then also follow them around, because that's what we all do as a group, right? We go to some of the same things, we chat, maybe, they can go to a different thing, but meet back up, stay in that line. And then on that, separate from that, what we usually do is pull new people in all the time. So if there was an MSP that you saw that was new and didn't really know what was going on, pull them under your wing, get them into the group, let them see what it's really about, how the community really works. I mean, that's how I met Zach Paulson. I mean, from True IT, he was kind of new at the time coming in, and we chatted and, had a great conversation. And then I said, hey, come over here, check this out, come over to this thing. And we all started hanging out. And, now he's Exchange Advisory Board member and, plugged into all the events and doing all those things that, you need to do.
I think sessions and speakers and all that, put everything else aside. We all know that the best part of the events, again, back to part of the reason why we even started Channel Strong, for whatever it's worth, you learn best from the people that are in the trench doing it. Like, they're you somewhere else, and you're both trying to accomplish similar goals in different parts of wherever, the world, the country, the state. But, everybody's experiencing things at different paces, different levels. You learn more from the person that's next to you saying, here's what works, here's what doesn't work for me, rather than, well, here are the 5 things that you should maybe start to consider, and you should start doing your homework. Like, it's just tangible versus, I don't know, right? Like, the unmeasurable stuff, right? So, the more people and I really feel like it's almost like against the grain, right? A lot of people in the IT space are not, I'm not saying not friendly, they're maybe a little introverted, right? Where they're maybe not as open unless they know you and stuff like that. But that's the time to break out and talk to whoever you can, because the more people you talk to, the more information you're going to get. I mean, once people are open, and I believe a lot of people are, I know I say the word castle mentality over and over and over again, but like, once you get past that whole thing, stuff that you'll learn from other people is just amazing. Stuff that you would like, wow, I would have never considered opening up that, level.
We talk about it all the time. I know that's how you became successful. That's how the MSPs that I either owned or worked with became successful. It wasn't like I woke up one day and said, these are the things I'm going to do, and I'm just going to plug this all in. It was always, oh man, I'm doing this wrong, and these guys are doing it. It seems to be working. Now, maybe they're in a different part of the country, so I have to tweak it a little bit. But all those little nuggets that came together that made those MSPs successful, because I was taking those little pieces, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that made things simpler. And that's what made, those hurdles a lot easier to get over, right? That $1 million hurdle that we all talk about, right? You're at that, you're touching that, scraping that 1 million market. You can't quite get there. That I pushed over that from talking to folks at Exchange, and then bumping up from that, and then hitting those other hurdles, how to hire, who am I hiring, where am I looking to hire? All those came from ideas from people across the industry at every one of these events. So yeah, I mean, it's been proven time and time again. You just gotta, stop worrying about your competition, because it's really not about that. There's so much business out there. And B, always be learning. Surround yourself with people smarter than you. If you're in a room and you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Well, you'll maybe be helping other people rather than being helped. But
right.
I get what you're saying. I mean, but listen, there's a put it out, kind of karma theory, right? Hey, I'm going to help other people eventually come back around. But anyway, so it's important to like literally just look at these as not a vacation, right? Look at your schedule. Since we've all been buttoned up, if you haven't walked out of your place to talk to other people in the industry other than by phone call or by Zoom, maybe pick one, open up the calendar and circle one and say, this is the one I'm going to, this is what I want to get out of it, and do it. Because things have changed. And I think finally, I was on a call with somebody yesterday, executive in the IT space. And he finally regurgitated to me what I said 7 months ago. Man, I think these virtual events are finally, hitting the, dead, just dead, right? Like you're not getting anything out of them. And I'm like, yeah, dude, where you been? Like it's June. I mean, I said that in January. I appreciate that he kept on doing it for 6 months, but I'm not sure, that was money well spent, kind of thing. But it's good that they different people come to that realization at different times. So I think hybrid is definitely the word now, right? But I still argue that the virtual part of the hybrid event is people are just too, they're watching all the stuff, right? I mean, like you're running your business, you're half paying attention. So got a lot of good stuff.
The only thing I will say though, there's still a place for some of this, because there was some good that came out of all of this from the virtual side of things, right? One, our calls that we do, right?
Oh, the community calls, yeah.
We wouldn't normally be chatting with each other,
I agree.
right? With all those people. And two, there are places in this world that either there's never an event near them, or they can never travel to an event that's going to be around. So that virtual will still plug in and work. Now, of course, it has to be better than some of the ones that you're talking about. But I'm saying in general, like from a PAX-A perspective, we're finding that there were places that even though we traveled all across the country for mission briefing, that we just weren't going to be able to go to because we would have, maybe 4 people in a room, and it's tough to do something like that. But if I get it. And that was, for all those people, they get that.
And largely from what I hear, the peer groups, at least 50% of them have continued to operate. Really. The other half have found a way to get together. And there's still the training sessions, the boot camp style events, hey, you're actually trying to learn something in one sitting rather than a marketing thing. So there's still places for that, but I'm just saying, like, I do think that, like, the reason I've even started down this road is the appetite for, hey, we've been cooped up. Why the summertime might be the biggest summertime from a travel standpoint in 20 years. Why all the prices are going up. Why you got to start planning ahead now so that you're not stuck with $1,000 plane ticket.
Right.
Is because things are rushing back, right? The dam has kind of been opened and everybody's going back the other way. So plan ahead, save some money, be strategic, talk to the people around you, talk to other peers and other businesses, coordinate, plan, circle it, book it, have it on the books. I've been, I say this time and time again, Ken, and we've both kind of made this transition at different times, but on the MSP side, right, you're only getting information as it's being targeted and sent to you. And once you open up the curtain and kind of put your hand in to see what's happening on the vendor side, on the other side, the communication is way higher than you would expect. And there's a lot of moving parts, sometimes bad parts, but still a lot of moving parts. So the amount of innovation that's happening and the amount of stuff that's about to come out and the amount of companies that are growing rapidly and the amount of things that are happening, that are about to flush through, to the MSP side of the equation is at probably a higher volume than I've seen in the last 10 years. I mean, the next 6, 8, 12 months is going to be kind of rocket boosters. So there's a lot of new stuff coming. There's a lot of new vendors popping up on the space. There's a lot of new technology that is coming downstream that wasn't even in the realm of affordability before, but now is. And I think, I know I see Darren on the call, so poke him, but I do think that there's a lot more acquisition and mergers because I think that are going to be announced because of the uncertainty of the other side of the fiscal year, right? About percentages and tax rates and all that other stuff that, scare the people who are spending big bucks. So you're going to see a lot of, I don't know if tornado is the right word. Maybe I'll switch it over to Tasmanian devil style movement or road runner, maybe. But it's got to come pretty quick starting July, I think on. What are you hearing, Ken?
What was that sound effect again?
Maybe.
Sorry, it's hard to agree with you when you're doing Roadrunner impersonation.
Hey, man. I got to sneak it in.
Yeah, I know. Later I'll make you do the chant. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's definitely, I mean, look, it's already happening. It's not like this is new, right? The last year or so, year and a half or so, that's been happening at such a high rate, it's hard to keep up with. And even Pax8's made a couple of acquisitions since last year, right? So I think we're going to see it across the board. And then, you and I have talked about this as well. Look at, PE getting into buying MSPs, right? And then the MSPs are freaking out because they don't know, well, is this a good time to sell? Am I in the right position? If I do sell, they're going to take care of my people. There's a lot of questions that come out of that. And it's happening everywhere. I mean, I'm talking smaller, I don't want to say small, people get offended, but I mean smaller MSPs compared to the big guys that, have all this movement and buy and sell and all that, are being approached by PE companies right now. And then reaching out and saying, hey, what do I do with this? Is this a good move? And sometimes it's hard to answer that, right? You don't know where they are necessarily in their journey, right? But I do know for the most part, and George, you have a lot of experience with this from a standpoint of, we've talked about this, and that what happens when these guys get involved. Typically, your people are not going to fare well, or things are not going to be status quo when that happens, when something like that happens.
Well, we did a M&A series, not last year, but the year before, right? And with Reed Warren from IT Valuations. So Google him if you haven't heard of him. And we've also talked to like the Jameson West and the Arlen Sorensens and a bunch of other people in the mix to talk about what all of that looks like. And all of that data is absolutely relevant, still valid. Go back and find that content. I think we're hosting that stuff still on the bvoip website under videos. But bottom line is, if you're an MSP, you should be running your MSP as if you could sell at any time. Even if you don't, run it. Make sure your books are in order, your contracts are in order, your employment agreements are in order. Make sure everything's good. Not because you're going to sell tomorrow, but because number one, you're going to feel a lot better when you see the bank. And number two, if an opportunity comes out of left field, look, I have a long time. We know an MSP right now that just got approached, and they got a deal that. And you just didn't even make sense. Like the number they threw out was like, you better go back and read where the comma is, or something's not right there. But I mean, if somebody's going to overpay you for your business, you don't want to sleep on that opportunity either.
Right.
You got to be prepared for when that comes in. And most people are not. So my best advice to everybody on that side, because Ken's right, I totally skipped over that. The amount of money coming through and the amount of people, not even VC back, just maybe mid-level MSPs wanting to grow, or a bunch of MSPs coming together to rubber band and become a larger entity, that kind of stuff. Like if you have your homework in order, it feels a lot less bothersome. It puts you in the driver's seat. That's the best way for me to say it.
Well, George, you're talking basic. I mean, let's put it this way. If you're going to do that, you're talking about EBITDA. And if you're talking about a strong EBITDA, you're in a happy place no matter what. You're making more money if you have a strong EBITDA. So doing this makes sense across the board.
But there are some other factors outside of EBITDA that, like, some people are, and again, we talk about this stuff all the time. Contracts versus no contracts, client term, customer acquisition costs, how long have your employees been with you? How long do you like? All of these questions start to come up, right? That are not necessarily EBITDA, but are part of the acquisition or merger process. And if you know what those are and you have the plan together and you have the answers, you're in the driver's seat in a much better way than you're rushing and trying to shuffle things together, what have you. So the best advice I can give you is go back and find out what it looks like. Just prepare, right? Clean up your stuff, have your answers together. Even if you have no intention of selling or demerging or doing anything like that, it'll just put you in a much better position. Even if you go to borrow traditional money from the bank, right? That'll put you in a good place. And then the other thing that's worth mentioning is, hey, you know what? You start seeing a lot of people, and like, it's funny, right? When we crossed into vendor land, both me and Ken, you start to ask questions, right? Like everybody pumps themselves up to some degree, right? Hey, how big are you? How many endpoints? What software are you using, right? And all of a sudden the 200 endpoint guy is the 1,000 endpoint guy, and the 1,000 endpoint guy is the 2,000. Like everybody kind of beefs themselves up. I get it, right? It's just a thing. But you have to kind of read in between the lines to figure out who's doing what and who they are. But even like we're seeing a lot more of, when I say getting your ducks in a row, people getting together to do things like group buying, right? If everybody has the data to back up their buying power Now, all of a sudden, we're not even talking M&A. We're not even talking, that kind of stuff. We're talking about cost savings on your ongoing costs, right? So there's just so many benefits to that. So do yourself a favor. Also, whether it's as a group, right? Multiple MSPs or your own MSP. And we've talked about this before too, but I'm going to bring it up now. Have a plan to evaluate new technology and new vendors, because some of the deals that I've seen on vendors that are starting to try and create some pedigree to their solution and get people onboarded, right? I mean, they're getting great offers for the technology that they're giving out because they're early on and they're trying to like get some good names behind their company. But if you're not in that mode, right? If you're walled off and you're not, hey, I just don't have time. I get too many phone calls, get too many emails. I don't have, create a process, find time. Even if you're leveraging your relationship with other MSPs, create a little group. If you do that work now, you'll be better off because you'll, think about the people that were early on and some of the larger companies that are around now, right? They're still on 10-year-old pricing that they got grandfathered in because there was a special deal that they did at the time in their early going. That could be you. So
yeah, and I would say the opposite of that is you definitely shouldn't wall yourself in. And the flip side of that is you should not always be chasing product or new solutions based on price.
No, but don't.
Right?
But
I'm saying the opposite. It has to be somewhere in the middle, right? You should be somewhere in that middle, always evaluating, having a plan in place. To George's point, right? That's all 100% accurate, but it doesn't mean looking at reevaluating companies that you already have a great relationship with just because you're looking for a penny or two, even if it's $1 or $2. Those relationships are most important piece. So remember.
I just same different conversation about that we just converted from HubSpot to Salesforce for our sales team for CRM and quoting and all that. They promised it was going to be perfect, but it's always never perfect. And I was like, yeah, never. Like you can have all your ducks in a row and it's still not right. There's still a training curve.
Right.
But we think that, think about that. Like as much as I hear people saying, hey, I'm going to switch PSA or RMM over and over and over and over again. Right. Like, dude, like unless it's a complete train wreck and it's, leaking oil from every orifice, do you really want to spend the time and the hours and the months? Like, no, I like, there's bigger fish to fry in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and like you said months, but I mean, sometimes it can be a year or more on those larger, making the switch to some, those larger tools that you use, PSA and RMM tools. Those tools are tough. So again, don't get trapped by them. Make sure, like George said, do your homework and fill in the gaps and make sure that anything you're looking at could handle the things that you're not getting handled now, but make sure you're braced and ready for a long transition.
Yeah. So like I pump all these these ideas out there because like to me, Ken, like June 1, right? Technically June's still part of the first 6 months of the year. Everybody forgets it. Oh, June. No. June's still part of Q2, right? Q3 is July 1. But like I feel like we're starting I feel like it's January 1.
Right.
I feel like we're finally coming back into a real year, right? Like we're starting fresh. Things are coming. I hate to even say the words back to normal. No, they're coming back way faster. Yeah. I hate that. I hate that phrase now. Coming back way faster, right? So like, right. But on the flip side, if you and now I'm like, hey, did you ever think about this, right? On the flip side, think about all the stuff we're talking about that covers you in MSP IT service provider land. Think about what your end customer now is experiencing, because I think it's really naive to believe that they're not now experiencing things within their own world the way that we are within ours. They absolutely are. And I think you can leverage your experience as an executive, MSP business owner, whatever. Go to the marketing company, the plumbing company, the electrician, the lawyer, the doctor, and say, hey, things are changing. There's new ways. There's new things. What's your plan? Let me tell you what we did in our business, and let's see what your plan is so that we can make the technology work for you, right? Like that's an age-old concept, but now more than ever, it's true. And if you should be getting into that conversation, if you haven't already now, like reset the dialogue and say, all right, COVID's behind us, work from remote, we got that under our belt, all that stuff. What does the next year, 2, 3 look like for you? What can we do to help enhance things? Why don't I tell you a little about what's happening in our business, and see if we can help you think the same way. That's a great conversation to be having right now.
You should have just dropped the mic right there. Should have been, that's it. Boom. It's 100% accurate. I mean, well, that's the whole thing we've been talking about is, you know, hey, we're educating you, Mr. MSP, Mr. IT provider, but who's educating your customers? It should be you. Should be delivering the same message to them and find ways to help them with their business, right? That's how you become more consultative, when you're not just talking about the gadgets and gadgets, you're talking about their business. How can we help you? Oh, we had that similar problem. This is how we dealt with it. Maybe this could help you. That builds that trust. That's where they really start to get in bed with you, right? 100% on your side, when they're like, yeah, remember we were struggling with this marketing problem and we talked to George and he gave us this tip. Yeah, we'll never leave George. That's how it works. That's that building that trust.
I'm telling you, a bvoip partner came to us and said, we're picking up a customer who's a solar panel company, and we've never dealt with that before, and we want to bring you into a call. I said, sure, happy to help. We'll get on the call. The owner of this solar panel company, really smart dude. Like, he understands how to build companies. It's like his fifth company. And he's like, yeah, listen, I need a solution for my dialer team. I need a solution for my sales reps. I need a solution for my implementation people. I was like, it's really sounding familiar, guy. Like, I feel like I'm talking to somebody who's like literally running my own company. I was like, I have the same things, right? I have salespeople, I have appointment setters, I have implementation people, I have support people, I have back office, right? Like, completely different industry, has nothing to do about technology per se. And I was like, I feel like, let me tell you what we're doing. He's like, everything you just said, I need. Where do I sign? And I was like, well, hey, talk to our partner here. I'm going to help them implement this. But like, you know, like, it's awesome to see that regardless of vertical, the same concepts still apply, right? People still,
of course, with that. They're still businesses at the end of the day. You don't have to know. I mean, back at one of the MSPs I was a part of, the one that actually purchased my MSP, they did nuclear power plants. Do you think that they knew anything about nuclear power plants? No, but it was the business office that was run on the technology that we had delivered, right? And over time, they even got so bold as to buy the company that was referring all the nuclear power plant business out, so that they could basically take control of all of that, right? They didn't need that middleman anymore because they were doing it already, and they just expanded out into it. So all that education was about the business side of things. How do you run your business? What happens when something goes wrong? Here's your mechanisms in place to make sure the systems are up and operational. Nothing to do with the actual power plants themselves, but it was the business office that needed to be running 24/7.
Yeah, my Simpsons watch history is probably not good enough for the nuclear power plant, but like,
yeah,
but that's a vertical, right? Like, you also had a different business. I don't know if it was the same one that you were in, Ken, that targeted prisons.
Right. No, they bought that company though. So that was my first company. Yeah.
So like,
corrections industry, right?
Right. These are verticals that you don't even think about, but like, they need service too.
And they're never going away.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
Just go back to my old city. You'll see.
Yeah, nuclear power and prisons, both two industries that will never go away. You're probably right. So let's take the last 15 minutes and talk about probably some of the stuff that came up on the tour, Ken. Yeah, and I mean the move to, number one, security is still probably the largest talked about topic at this juncture. I mean, entire companies have come up, and I've seen entire companies shift their strategy just because of the word security. So security seems to probably still, unless you tell me otherwise, probably still the top topic that's being talked about in the parking lot circles, bar, hallway, whatever you want to call it. Continuing to move to the cloud, right? I mean, I know that's probably been beat over the head 1,000 times over, but like, probably still happening.
It's the same old story. The ones that were doing it before this all hit did pretty well through it, right? And the ones that didn't, maybe struggling a little bit, but are now pushing forward to get there.
Yeah, I still see, the cost benefit ratio on, the box, right, versus especially on the stuff that can't go to the cloud, right, the legacy, whatever. But at the end of the day, I do think that a lot of people are starting to pave their way forward from, which is ironic because there's a shortage, right? We've been hearing still that these laptops and tablets are like September, October, whatever.
Well, yeah, and if you read the article this morning, they're saying that this shortage could last years.
Yeah. I don't understand how we were good and then like overnight, just the shortage happened. Now we're stuck. But I probably have some ideas. But anyway, like how many people are buying desktops? Like you can find desktops pretty easily. It's the mobile because nobody wants to put a box on the ground anymore, right? Everybody's like, hey, just plug in and you're working wherever you're at, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, one thing that you didn't discuss, and I know you know this, is commit, the rise of commit through this whole thing. It actually has a big push. And, you know, I'm not just saying this because we got to see Bob on the trip, right? I mean, we're talking to people at every single event before we even got to Cleveland and talking to Bob, it was across the board. Yeah, I'm getting a lot more commit stuff. And it's because these CTOs and CEOs went to their IT department and said, hey, why the hell are we so far behind with all this stuff happening, right?
Well,
it definitely sped things up there as well.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bob Coppage, for hosting us at your space. We appreciate you, and that goes again, a second thank you out to all of the MSPs that helped us out there. That's number one. Number two, I think it's a very interesting dichotomy where these and again, I hate to keep on bringing it back to vendors, but the vendors that have a direct sales force and then the channel program, right? And there's always been that clash. All of a sudden, maybe not the Fortune size companies, right? But maybe like the 500 and below, let's call it, okay? MSPs, at least the ones targeting small business, SMB, SME, if you're in the UK, whatever, probably tap out about 200.
Yep.
Once you get to about 200, it gets hard and you're going to have to change the way that you're doing things. But that 200 to 500, there's a lot, or 100 to 500, there's a lot of companies that fit in that bubble.
Right.
And they still haven't hired back from the internal IT that they've laid off. The people that are responsible for, if they don't have a dedicated CIO, CTO, technology person somewhere in that, upper level, that falls between the CEO and the finance guy, right? And so like they don't understand all of the moving parts. They just understand dollars. So like the one guy that's stuck doing help desk stuff, probably the company, or the two guys that are running around their hair on fire, they're the guys that are getting all the vendor calls, and they do a little bit of what the MSPs do. They don't have time for them, so they just don't take them.
Right.
But then when you get somebody that finally does get through the noise, right? And you're just like, hey, listen, I'm not a vendor, but I think I can help you. I already have a curated set of stuff. What do you need help with? Here's some areas that we're doing, that we're doing some good work in for other people. It's just a different conversation because the message is being delivered from not the guy with the stock symbol in their name, right? So, at the end of the day, I think the strategy, at least I've seen it now, really start to percolate. I know we're even doing it. Hey, we're not targeting internal IT. We're not targeting the direct buyer at the non-MSP end user, but we're working with the channel partner, the MSP, in these different, metros, cities, to go and deliver that message and work together to win, right? And so if you haven't seen this, open your eyes. And if you have seen it, if you can produce, viable results for both you and your upstream set of vendors by doing that, by working in co-manage, by targeting the internal IT department, there's a lot of money at the end of that road. When I say that, like the vendors will pump money into making you go faster down that road. They'll give you resources. They'll send you stuff that you probably didn't have access to, and they'll give you MDF dollars that you didn't know were available, because those are the guys that help you grow, help them grow. It's a domino effect, right? So I know that that's, zoom out, right? How do I even start that conversation? Well, who is your relationship right now at all these companies? I would pick up the phone. Like, do the reverse of what they're doing to you. You should call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about targeting internal IT for up to 500 employee companies. What can you help me with? The answer will surprise you, I think, because it's surprising me, and I'm hearing it on the other side.
Yep, 100%. And it's definitely a wide open market. They need love. They're not getting the love they need. They fall back into the mode of hiring, the CEO's nephew to fill in a role that's not the right role, or they do that and they have MSPs as their champion, you know, as their helper, then they're the champion of the MSPs, reverse that around, then that makes a big difference, right? Because that's really what's happening. As an MSP, we don't want that. We don't want to take that whole thing over. That's a headache. But having them internal to basically direct and take on the tools. And listen, you start out as small as you need to. It doesn't matter. Offer up licensing and just give them the license, you know, start doing their licensing and let them see how easy that is to start. That's the Trojan horse, right? You start doing the licensing and then, oh, wow, this licensing is really good. Can you guys do migrations? Oh, yeah, we can definitely do migrations. Oh, and by the way, if you need other projects, you should definitely reach out. Oh, well, what kind of projects? Boom. It just starts to spiral because the person in-house can't do it. And as long as they feel comfortable that you're not coming in to take their job, you're only there to make them look good. It's a win-win across the board. And it's extremely successful. And again, you know, Bob Coppedge literally wrote the book on this stuff. If you're looking to find that stuff, just look up Bob Coppedge and you'll see his many books on the subject. It's just a great guide to how to approach the commit space because it's wide open. It is.
And I know that counters a message that's been out there for, I don't know, about 10 years now, which is if it's not all managed, don't take it.
Right.
It's different. It's different. It's different than break, fix, and project.
Yes.
Because there is a technical resource that's the punching bag. Sorry to say that. That's the punching bag for the internal organization. So you're not fielding all of that chatter, right? You're really just handling specific pieces behind them in order for them to do what they need to do. So it does, you know, like the volume that comes through in terms of the front lines, the dispatching, the triaging, the service staff, like a lot of that is what scares people. It's not there, right? It's a different type of relationship setup, and you're not going to get bogged down per se on that. It may be more of your higher level engineers' times getting involved on certain things at different levels. So
that's exactly what it is. And George, you know, I'm sure you love chasing printer problems and things like that, especially in a large organization, right? No, that's what they'll do. And if they get stuck on something larger, they overflow it to you. I mean, you let them use your tools, you let them use your RMM, you let them use your PSA. They have their own ticket system, but allow them to escalate it to you when there's a problem and help them out. Right? There's different ways of doing it. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you don't do that. But
I can't tell you guys how many people. I was just talking about this literally yesterday. How many people they're running into internal IT and they're running Spiceworks still as their ticketing system because it's free. And I'm just like, dude, you could enhance that. You know, imagine you brand it. You put the pick your portal, right? There's a lot of popular ones out there, right? You brand it as the company, you put it out there. Now they have a ticketing system that's not the freebie guy that's like, you know, just because they don't want to pay for one. And then all of a sudden, if they need to escalate something to you, one button. You know, like right. That's the kind of stuff where the user experience stuff takes way over. If you haven't thought about it, think about it. And you're not in it alone. And like Bob, we keep on bringing up Bob. He wrote a great book about it. I think he has a Facebook group and he's about to do a conference, a small like first time event that's coming up about co-managed and how, where you can win, where you can't, prepackaged stuff that will help you fast forward. So that's a good resource. Good plug for Bob there. But ultimately, like your vendors have all the same content, right? And quite frankly, if you're not leveraging the stuff that they're giving you, or if you don't ask for it because you don't, you've unsubscribed from everything, so you don't even know what stuff's coming out, ask, and it'll help save a lot of time on making things look pretty for sure.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely worth looking into. And hey, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Like everything else, it's just a matter of. But when you're looking at mailbox money, as I love to use, that's my term, or not my term. I stole it from someone else, but. The simplest thing is to do some of the licensing or let them rent out the tools. And if they can handle everything, you're just sitting back collecting, money on that. And they get tools that they can't get, by the way.
And to that point, reoccurring revenue that's actually profitable, that only makes you look better. Let's face it, right? When you go back and do that homework we talked about earlier, right? Like if I were to say tomorrow, what's the stuff I should be doing right now to make sure my stuff's in order? Reoccurring profit dollars, reoccurring revenue, right? Where you're not having to go out there and do projects and break fix and one-time revenue. You want to minimize that as much as possible, right? All this co-managed stuff falls right into the sweet spot of the math. No reason absolutely not to do it. you should absolutely take a look. And then you may have to change your marketing a little bit. I'm not saying stop marketing MSP stuff. Do both. But yeah, hard recommendation to go take a look at that. Ken, while we're coming into the final few minutes here, if you were to tell an MSP in the next 30 days, here's the stuff you should be paying attention to. I always say, what next 6 months, next 12 months, what do you think that's coming out in the next month or so that people should be paying attention to from the MSP space?
Oh, Lord, George, with the tough questions. I mean, we just ran down a rundown of the things that they should be paying attention to. I mean, if I'm going to go back to something you said earlier in this conversation, it's, get your business ready to be bought, whether you're selling it or not. Honestly, from the standpoint of, that's the first thing. We always say it, right? It starts at home. Get your house in order first. So before you start looking at all the things we talked about, commit and, all these other things, if your house isn't in order, none of that's going to matter. So the things that I would be looking towards are things like traction that can definitely help get your house in order and help move things in the right direction. Great entrepreneurial operating system. It's an EOS. That would be my first thing. I can't say that enough. We talk about it all the time. I kind of throw it out there in every one of my sessions that I'm doing. But if your house is in order, all the other things that you're doing are just going to fall or not meet the expectations because you're still operating, at 80% or 70% or whatever it is. Get your operational systems in place, get your processes in place, make sure the whole company knows the direction that you're going in, right? Everybody rowing in the same direction. That's when things really take off. And then you can start looking at things like commit and some of these other things we talked about, just running through this and being smart, looking at your tools. If you don't have a plan to evaluate the existing tools and what's new out there, that's another thing that's just going to keep, you're going to keep getting stuck in the weeds. And I think that's the thing that does that, right? We all get stuck in the weeds. We get 1,000 things going on. George, you and I are guilty of that from any number of areas, but we did learn how to prioritize and how to at least have those core functions all done through a process, all through metrics, measured out. So we know, okay, from here, I can do these things and prioritize. So I say, get your house in order first, and then start looking at these other things that we're talking about.
We went through like a full life cycle of an MSP in this.
I know.
But all of this stuff is stuff that you should be asking for help on. You're not there alone. If you're doing it by yourself, you'll get there. It just take a lot longer, and nobody's going to stop and wait for you. So the world
hurts. It hurts more.
Yeah, for sure. Ken, appreciate you for being on the road for 2 weeks. I know it was always interesting stories that come out of that. Hopefully it just gets better from here. Everyone else, all these calls are recorded as usual. MSPinitiative.com under sessions. You can rewind, fast forward, download, all that stuff. So feel free to go back and listen to this one or other ones there. Again, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1:00 Eastern time. And we'll try and make sure that we keep it going, because I think on the tour we ran on one where we're like, oh, it's the Thursday. And don't forget, last day to register for the giveaway, MSPinitiative.com. Click on giveaway. Must enter to win. Ken, catch you on the flip side, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
You got it. See ya.